Good morning, Aveda Artist Education. How are you this morning? It is Friday. My name is Maureen Bangle, and I'm here to share with you Demi Plus timing guidelines for our week-long series from your Hair Color Magic team. So we're all super excited to share these videos and tips and tricks with you this week, and hopefully we'll be back next week with some more. If you have any ideas, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the comments. And while you're doing that, if you could do me a favor and drop where you are watching from, what salon and what city are you watching from in the comments, because we always like to see where everyone is from. So today, like I said, our topic is Demi Plus timing guidelines. So we wanted to do this one because Demi Plus has been a little bit of a challenge for people. Anybody agree with that? Go ahead and raise your hand. Raise hand emoji in the comments. But there are a lot of us that love it. If you love Demi, drop a heart in the comments and we'll see where we fall. But we wanted to give you some tips and tricks again about timing to help you in the salon. Because I don't know about you, but I am behind the chair 5 days a week usually. And I don't have time to come back to a guest to do maybe a mid-length and end refresh. So these are some of the that is where these guidelines were born. So was working behind the chair with guests each and every day. So are you ready? Let's do it. So Demi Plus, the reason they recreated, we went from deposit only color treatment to Demi Plus. And when the task force decided to redo our Demi line, they went to the network and said, what are some of your challenges? And some of the top challenges that people had was timing. It took too long in some cases. It was too sheer for some of us. And they wanted a different consistency. So when they reformulated Demi, they solved some of those challenges, right? Demi Plus is now more opaque. It has a faster processing time. Instead of 20 from deposit only color treatment, it now has a 5 to 20 minute processing time. And it has that gel cream consistency. So it's great if you know how to use it and you know how to kind of be flexible with how you are using it. So that's what we are going to do today. So the one thing I want to remind you is that, like our other color lines, Demi Plus is a progressive color. What does that mean? Progressive color is progressive. There isn't a little color molecule who yells at everybody at 20 minutes, okay, everybody stop working, stop depositing. It doesn't work that way. It keeps going. The longer we leave it on the hair, the more it will deposit. So here's a way to think of this or remember that our colors are progressive, right? Full Spectrum Permanent, if you were to use Full Spectrum Permanent for gray coverage, before we had the tube of NN to help with resistant gray coverage, what did we do, or what do we currently do to get more opaque gray coverage? Process for longer, right? Instead of a 30-minute processing time, some guests might be 45 minutes. I know my friend Dawn Shank, who's at Scott J in New York, she is awesome at gray coverage, and I've reached out to her for tips in the past. Some people have to stay on longer than that, and what that does is it allows that color to keep depositing tone and level. So at 30 minutes you might not get great coverage, but at 45 it looks better because that color has had a chance to deposit more on the hair. So Demi Plus, same principle, it keeps progressing. So I did some swatches for you to give you a better visual of how Demi Plus works. So I'm going to see if you guys can see these, and I'll go ahead and post a photo of this in the comments below when we're all finished. But I chose to do a level 9, a level 7, level 5, and level 3 in Demi Plus. These 4 swatches represent, the first one on the left will represent a 5-minute processing time. The second one is 20 minutes. The third one, 30 minutes. And the last one on the right, 40 minutes for each level. So you can see with a 7 in particular, I'll point out this one. With a 7, you can see 5 minutes, that's the result we're going to get. This is a great option if you were going to tone someone at the shampoo bowl. That might be a great option. But in the salon behind the chair, we need to let it sit longer, right? We don't always have the time to go back and refresh someone's ends if that's what we're doing. So you can see what happens with 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and 40 minutes. You can see a level 7 gets fairly dark at 40 minutes. So the lesson here is to remember that Demi Plus is also a progressive color. The longer it sits, the more it will deposit. So keep that in mind. So, anybody ever experienced that before? Anybody ever experienced Demi Plus going a little bit darker than they intended it to? I know I have, but I will say that last February, the Hair Color Magic team always meets for an update in February. And last February when we were together, we discussed these guidelines, all agreed that these guidelines are very, very, very helpful. So if you're choosing to do some sort of color service with Demi Plus, if you left it on for 5 minutes, so what are some good color services or examples of color services that you are doing in 5 minutes? Typically toning at the bowl, a shine treatment, things like that, right? So if you're processing your Demi Plus for 5 minutes, choose your desired level. So if my desired level was a 7, I would choose a 7 to do my color service for 5 and let it process for 5 minutes. If I was going to process for 20 minutes, I would choose 1 level lighter than my desired level, right? 1 level lighter than my desired. The reason is that at 20 minutes, we just saw with those swatches I showed you, it's going to continue to deposit. So if my desired level was a 7 for 20 minutes, I would choose a level 8 here. Choose a level 8. So choose 1 level lighter than your desired. If I was going to leave on my Demi Plus for 30 minutes, maybe some of you book on a 30-minute time span. Every 30 minutes you're doing something different, or your processing times are typically 30 minutes booked out in your book. You're going to choose 2 levels lighter than your desired level. So like we said, our desired level is a 7. If you're going to process for 30 minutes, we're going to choose a level 9. The reason is that 9 is going to, again, if it's going to sit for 20 minutes, we want to make sure it doesn't go too dark. And last but not least, if you were doing a 40-minute processing time, again, everybody's times are different in the salon. If you have a 40 or 45-minute processing time, choose 3 levels lighter than your desired level. So for that desired level 7, we would reach for a level 10 if we're going to process for 40 minutes. So those are the the Demi Plus timing guidelines that we have for you that have worked out quite well. Like I said, I have used these guidelines for the past year and a couple months. I find that I do not have any challenges with Demi going too dark. I know it's an extra step, and I know we would love for, if I needed a level 7, why can't I just grab a level 7? Like I said, you can. It's just that Demi Plus was formulated for that 5 to 20 minute processing time. So a level 7 works great for 5 minutes to get a level 7. But after that 5 minutes, it will continue to process or deposit onto the hair, and you will get a little bit darker than you're probably shooting for. So I hope that helps a little bit with guidelines. Hang tight, we're gonna run through some scenarios here in just a second. But before I moved on to scenarios, I wanted to make sure that we spoke a little bit about developers as well. So for developers, we have 2 choices for Demi Plus. We have 5 volume and we have 10 volume. You can use liquid or cream. You can use either one. It's just a matter of preference. I personally like to use half and half. I love the consistency when I mix the liquid and cream together. But what is the difference between 5 volume and 10 volume? So a little bit different than we're used to when we're talking about other color categories like full spectrum permanent. So in full spectrum permanent, we say use 10 volume for deposit, use 5 volume for maximum deposit. With Demi Plus, the way the technology is, we're actually going to flip-flop it. So 5 volume is going to give you more of a sheer effect. And the reason is the working time that 5 volume has, the amount of oxygen in that bottle is going to dissipate faster than 10 volume. So 10 volume has a longer working time. And what did we learn about the more time we have with Demi Plus, the more deposit we will get. So 5 volume is going to be your option for more sheer results with Demi Plus, and 10 volume is going to be your recommended developer if you're looking for more opacity or more opaqueness with your colors. That's why we recommend it for gray coverage as well. So that I wanted to review that in terms of developer. Any questions so far? Shout them out.
Can you scoot over?
This way?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then somebody had a question earlier about Aveda. They weren't sure, but Aveda color not being progressive.
Previously?
Is it just me, or were we told Aveda color before Demi Plus was not progressive?
I would say that all color is really progressive. There isn't necessarily. Developers are your working time, right? So as long as they are working, I would say they are depositing, as long as they have the oxygen left in them. So it may have been taught that in a class that it was not progressive, but like you said, knowing from gray coverage, in this case Demi Plus, we can see that the longer we let a color sit, the more tone will be more color and tone will be deposited on the hair. So I hope that clears things up. I apologize for any misinformation that you may have gotten, but like I said, know that all of the colors, even our blonde finish toners, if you have ever swatched them out, they will continue to deposit color after their 5-minute processing time. So I hope that helps.
And this will be saved afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. This will be saved afterwards.
But so far.
That's it so far?
Yep.
All right, well, let's get into some scenarios. We're going to run through. Let me get this out of the way so I can get back to my other flip chart. Okay, is that... I'm going to move this over here.
Do you want me to get both?
Yes, please. So, all right, our first scenario we are going to do today is... We have a guest who's we're going to use Demi on her mid-lengths and ends. Her desired level is a level 8, and we're going to process her for 40 minutes. So, first of all, I look at my processing time, 40 minutes. That my little Demi guideline chart tells me for 40 minutes, I'm going to choose 3 levels lighter than my desired. So, if 8 is my desired, I'm going to do 3 levels lighter. You ready? 1, 2, uh-oh. What happened? I don't have anything lighter than a 10. What am I going to do? Shout it out. What are some suggestions? If I don't have a lighter than a 10, what am I going to do? How about mix half level 10 and half 0N clear? So, for this particular guest, her mid-lengths and ends, she's going to process for 40 minutes. So we're going to choose 3 levels lighter than our desired, which is an 8. Our desired level is an 8. My desired level's here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I don't have anything lighter than a 10, so I'm going to take half 10N in Demi and half 0N clear to make sure that she doesn't get too dark after we process her for 40 minutes. How do you guys feel about that?
Somebody did or asked the question of, could you bump the processing time?
Yes, absolutely. So let's say that I don't have anybody in between my guest, my color, and her cut, all right, or her color and her cut. So I have the opportunity at the 20 minutes, she has 20 minutes left processing on her new growth. Could I go back and process her for 20 minutes? Yes. If I process her for 20 minutes, I'm going to choose one shade lighter. So her desired is an 8. Here's my desired. I'm going to choose one level lighter. For 20 minutes, I would choose a 9 from Demi Plus. Again, just to keep rolling with that, if I process her mid-lengths and ends for 30 minutes, her desired is an 8. I would choose 2 levels lighter, a 10 in Demi Plus. So there's our first scenario. How did you guys feel about that?
Good.
Give me some hand claps or hearts to make sure I know you guys are liking it. All right. How are we doing? Good? All right, let's do scenario 2. So this guest has a mid-lengths and ends application as well. Her desired level is going to be a 6. Her desired level is a 6, and we're going to process her for 30 minutes. Her mid-lengths and ends are going to process for 30 minutes. So 30 minutes, I'm going to choose 2 levels lighter than my desired level. My desired is 6. Here I am. 2 levels lighter, 7, 8. I would choose a level 8 from Demi Plus to make sure her mid-lengths and ends don't go too dark. So, any questions so far? No? Keep going? All right. Let's say we have a guest that we need to tone her. We need to tone her. Maybe she's had some, we've done a blonding technique on her. She's already lifted, and we just have to go through and tone her at the bowl. We're gonna tone her process that for 5 minutes at the bowl, and her desired level is a 9. So I'm gonna have you guys drop answers in the comment section. If I'm toning this guest at the bowl and processing it for 5 minutes, her desired level is a 9. What level am I choosing here?
Level 9, easy.
Yeah, duh. No, I'm just kidding. That one's an easy one, right? So that, if you're doing a 5-minute processing time, you're going to choose your desired level. This one's always the easiest. Always the easiest, that 5-minute processing time. One more for you. This is a virgin application. So we're putting Demi over everything from scalp to ends. Her desired level is a level 4. And we're going to process her for 40 minutes because I have someone in between her processing time. So, virgin application, level 4. I'm going to process for 40 minutes. What is my level choice? Level 4, we're going to do 3 levels lighter than her desired. So here's my desired. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to use a level 7 for 40 minutes in Demi Plus. And I'm going to show you. Way too many things. Okay. So here are our swatches again. This is a level 7 for 5 minutes. The one furthest on the right is 7N for 40 minutes. And that is a level 4 swatch. Oh, sorry, there we go. A level 4 swatch on my swatch ring. So it gives you an example of how much that continues to deposit. So here's a great tip for you guys too, just since I'm holding these swatches up to the swatches of hair that we deposited Demi Plus on. If you are ever trying to figure out what level someone is, and it's difficult to try and figure out it's hard to figure out the level because the tone gets in the way, if that makes any sense. Take a photo of the swatch up against someone's hair take that photo and edit it to make it black and white. It will actually give you the level that you're trying to find out by taking the tone out of it. So it'll just give you the level that you are looking for. It takes the tone out. So that's a little extra tip. Has nothing to do with Demi Plus, but in the salon, if you're having a hard time figuring out what level someone is because there's tone involved, that's always a great way to figure out your level. So actually that happened recently with Vanessa, my sister's hair color. We had pre-lightened her, and I was deciding what level Demi Plus to use. And I was really debating between a 10 and a 9, a 10 and a 9, a 10 and a 9. I don't know about you, but sometimes that's just, I can't nail it down. So what I did was I actually took my swatches, I laid them across her hair, went ahead, took a photo, and then again edited it so that it was black and white. And it gave me a very clear answer. Looking at her pre-lightened hair, because it had tone in it, obviously yellow, I would have probably chosen a 9 based on the tone that was in her hair that was reflecting. But after doing that photo, it was very clear to me that it was definitely a level 10. All that does, that black and white photo, again, just takes the tone out of it, so you get to see clear level. Clear level. So I hope those swatches, like I said, I will post a photo of those swatches in the comments below, but I hope that's a great visual for you to see how, first of all, what a level looks like in Demi Plus. Second of all, the tone, you'll notice with these swatches, they're very neutral, right? They're very neutral. So keeping that in mind, it's a great visual to see the tone of Demi Plus. And last but not least, it's also good to see the progression of the levels as they process longer. So I hope that was a good visual for you guys, and hopefully makes a lot more sense now that you can see what Demi does as it continues to process. One of the things that we talked about in the network when Demi first came out, one of the questions that came up was, can you use, if your desired level is a level 7, can I use a level 7 but use more developer? So use more color catalyst to dilute that 7? Yes, you can. I would say that our research and testing from the Hair Color Magic team, not from Aveda, but we have found that we get better longevity of those colors if we choose lighter levels instead of diluting that color with more developer. But get some swatches out. If you have the opportunity when you get back to the salon, get some swatches out. When in doubt, swatch it out. That's what we always say. So get some swatches out, try it out, see the difference. Try some shampoo experiments to see which one lasts longer, right? So Demi Plus, just a couple other tips as well. How many shampoos does Demi Plus last? Throw me some numbers down in the comments. Throw me some numbers. How many shampoos on healthy hair, let's say that, does Demi last? Any guesses? All right, nothing yet? Okay, on the replay, I expect more comments in that comment box. But
20,
close, very close, very close.
12.
So up to 24 washes.
24, there we go.
Up to 24 shampoos.
There
so
they
I
go.
say up to, good job, guys, good job. More comments, I love it. So up to 24 shampoos. So keep that in mind when you're talking about Demi Plus with your guests, because yesterday or the day before, I think we talked about preservation glosses. That is a great add-on service for your guests in between their lived-in blonde appointments. If you're using Demi Plus for their toner, remember, they will not survive 12 weeks with just one tone or application. They do need to come in for that preservation gloss in between. So keeping that in mind, and remember that's based on healthy hair. So if someone does have compromised hair, remember that that may not last quite as long. So keep that in mind. Let's see, there was something else I was gonna say and I can't remember. I know what I was gonna say. So think about your demi tones as well. Here they are on the floor. Dropped them, sorry. But think about your demi tones. Your demi tones are a little bit different than what they were with deposit only color treatment. But again, it's because they're a demi line. So your dark copper is going to be more of an orange red. Your light copper is just going to be orange. Your golds are very soft YO. If you need to mix something a little bit more red orange, feel free to always mix your tones together. Try them out. You can get some really beautiful results mixing your tones together and then deciding how much you want to see of that tone by using your 0N clear to sheer it out. So Demi Plus, I would say in our salon, we use it all the time. 9 times out of 10, Demi Plus is what we're using on people's mid-lengths and ends. So the reason we choose it is because it is ammonia-free. So we're not creating any porosity in the hair on mid-lengths and ends that can cause color to either grab when you apply it or wash out too quickly. So Demi Plus is our product of choice, besides the fact that we love the sunflower, castor, jojoba, and kukui oil that is in the Demi Plus. So it gives us great shine. So we use it all the time. If you have any questions about Demi, please reach out to your favorite educator or those of us on the Hair Color Magic team. We'd be happy to answer any questions regarding those guidelines that we talked about today. I hope these help if you are having Demi Plus challenges, that I know that they have really helped us in the last year, making sure that we get the results we are looking for. Like I said, Demi Plus is one of my favorites, so it's always something fun for me to talk about. Any questions?
Yes, we do.
Checking in.
So do you have any suggestions on rinsing out the Demi Plus?
Okay, so the question was,
rinsing and shampooing.
do we have any guidelines for rinsing out Demi Plus? So first of all, I have a few, I would say, and my teammate Jimmy Keaton Cohen's going to give you some shampooing guidelines next week as well. But here are my few tips that I use every time. First of all, wash or rinse out the Demi Plus with as hot of water as your guest can stand. It's easier to break up that product to rinse it out, so that's really important. And second of all, my experience with Demi Plus and my philosophy is anytime color is in the hair, it always gets shampooed out. So not just rinsed, I always shampoo out my Demi Plus. My favorite 2 shampoos that I use to shampoo out color are going to be Color Conserve or Shampure. Those 2 always, to make sure that all the product is off the hair before I proceed. So yes, as hot of water as the guest can stand, and shampoo it out with Shampure or Color Conserve. Next one.
When you are cutting with clear or using 0N by itself, how much pure tone do you use?
So if I use 0N by itself, or if I use it with the Natural Series, I always default to, at least I start with, and usually where I stick to, the amount of grams recommended for that level you're putting it on. So if I was doing a 7, half 0, our grams for Demi Plus, remember, are the same for deep, or the same as full spectrum deep. So instead of 2, 4, 6, 8, like we're used to with full spectrum permanent, we're gonna do 4, 8, 12, 16. So if I did 20 grams of 7, 20 grams of 0N clear, I would do 16 grams of my pure tone and split them up however I would like in terms of tone. So I would do the same if I was putting just 0N to get a level 7. I would do 0N, 40 grams of 0N and 16 grams of tone. The only thing I would say about that is that the times I do alter my tone amount would be if I have someone with a soft formula or a strong formula based on their texture, type, and density.
So someone says, I've seen Hair Color Magic Demi formulas using equal parts N series and tone with total weight of catalyst. What's the theory behind this choice? Example, 40 grams 9N plus 40 grams light ash plus 80 grams 10 volume.
So if we're using equal parts of the N series and tone, you are going to get tons of tonal deposition, right? So recommended amount for a level 9 in Demi is 8 grams of tone. If you're doing equal parts, you are getting very heavy tonal deposition. So in this case, ash, light ash, I think was the example. You're going to get a lot of ash tonal deposition. I would say almost, I'm going to say that. You're going to get lots of tonal deposition for that particular formula. And like I said, it's not nearly going to be as sheer as if you were using for recommended. So the reasoning behind it, I'm assuming, I don't know whose formula it was, but it would be lots of that tone they want to see a lot of that tone reflected in their end result.
Developer for toning. Do you
Developer
have a
for
preference
toning.
as far as liquid or cream?
So liquid or cream, is that the question? Okay, so I personally, if I'm doing toning at the bowl with Demi Plus, I prefer to use liquid because I'm usually at the bowl, not always, but if I'm doing a 5-minute tone at the bowl, I might be doing it with a bottle. And so it's easier for me to get that product out of the bottle and onto the hair and less waste because the viscosity is better to come out of that bottle.
Gray coverage. What's the gray coverage on Demi?
Okay, so we get up to 75% gray blending with Demi Plus. And I'm going to be very, very, very honest with you. I used to manipulate deposit-only color treatment to get better gray blending before. My biggest challenge with Demi Plus was actually not going too dark, but it was too opaque for what I was used to. It does its job really well when it comes to gray blending. So up to 75% gray blending is the claim that we have with 10 volume. I like to process them for 30 minutes, but you can always change that. Again, we learned about processing. The longer you process it, what will happen? You'll get more coverage. So I use it a lot for gray blending. It's a great way to move someone from a permanent, very full coverage gray. It's a great transition to move them to Demi Plus, and then I have continued to shear out their formula if they continue to want to grow out that gray. So it's just a great way to move them away from a very heavy full spectrum permanent or deep opaque coverage.
Fill and fix. Would you use Demi first or would you use permanent or the other way around?
So fill and fix is actually a different technique. That's actually for low lights, long-lasting low lights that we talk about in our blondes class for Hair Color Magic. If you're talking about filling or pre-coloration, I would say Demi Plus and then permanent over the top of it, just to clarify those two.
Using Demi Plus, would you apply to damp or dry, and why?
So it depends upon what you're doing, but I would say I prefer to apply to either dried hair or very well towel dried hair. The reason is that old adage of hair can only hold so much moisture is true, and it's a fact. So if hair is sopping wet, there's not, it doesn't allow the hair to absorb your toning formula. So I would say if you're doing it at the bowl, just make sure that hair is really, really, really towel dried. And and equalizing solution sprayed over the top of it to get your best, most even results. Sometimes there are times I find taking people back to the chair to do applications, tonal applications. I do like taking them back to the chair and making sure that hair is really pretty close to being dry before I put toners on. I feel like I get better results and results that last longer because water's not taking up space that we want that color to take in. So
they made a question about a formula. Do you have any tricks for a blue-black formula using Demi Plus?
So the challenge with blue-black in any color category is that when you're doing a very dark color, there's not very much reflection. So I would say it's not necessarily a one-shot deal, in my opinion. You don't get the reflection of color or tone at those really deep, dark levels. So it may be a two-step process that blue-black is a really tough thing to do, but it's more than a one process. So no, I'm sorry, I don't have any great formulas for that blue-black in just one go.
Somebody then asked, you might have answered this already. I don't think we did. Do you find that the liquid developer leaves a grit in the hair? If so, how do you deal with that?
So no, I have not found that. The liquid, I would say the only thing I would say about liquid and actually the cream is I really whisk or whip my Demi Plus formulas quite a bit because at first it's actually very gooey or tacky, if that makes sense. If you continue to whip it or whisk it, it turns into a much better consistency. So that I have found works really well. I haven't had that grittiness though. It could, like I said, it could be that it's not incorporated completely, but whisking it for 40, my rule in the salon is whisking everything for 45 seconds, not just my enlightener. So I hope that helps with a little bit of that grittiness for you.
Okay, we just have a couple more if you're game. So somebody said, so if I'm shooting for a target of 7 gray blending, I would choose a 9 or 9 with 10 volume.
Yes, so
for 30 minutes.
For how long?
30.
And it was a 7?
7 gray blending is the goal.
Okay. So 7 gray blending for 30 minutes. You would actually choose 2 levels lighter if you were going to. So 7, you could do an 8, 2 levels would be 9. So yes.
Plus 10 volume.
Yes, 10 volume. Gray blending, always 10 volume. Gray blending, always 10 volume. It'll give you a little bit more of that working time to make sure it deposits onto that gray hair.
Okay, and then do you ever mix permanent pure tones in with your Demi bases?
I would say no, I really don't. I would say I stick Demi with Demi, to be very honest. And I do...
they sometimes run out at their salon.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So I will do a lot of Universal 0N with my permanent pure tones. I would say give it a try. See, Aveda's not going to recommend mixing those permanent tones with Demi, but I would say give it a try and see what you come up with. And the only thing I would say is you might want to mix your developer and that pure tone together in a bowl first, or in a bottle first, and shake it up and maybe let it process. Because think about your full spectrum permanent pure tones. Their processing time's a little bit longer than Demi Plus. You have that shorter time. If you're doing a toner, because remember at 5 minutes it's going to start going. So I would say give it a whirl, see what you come up with. Again, when in doubt, swatch it out.
2 more questions and then I think we're good.
Good.
Would you ever use Demi Plus instead of permanent for a full color application?
Yes, I do. I mean, I have done it. It depends upon what your finish is. What is your desired look? What are you trying to achieve? So I know that full spectrum permanent is always going to give me, or full spectrum deep is always going to give me more opaque coverage, where Demi Plus is going to give me a little bit more sheer coverage. In some cases, if I can make something with Demi Plus, I don't know about you guys, but I have done applications where I've let it sit for 40 minutes and I can get pretty darn opaque. The only time like I said, I have done it. It just depends upon your finished or your desired end result. What finish are you looking for when you are all finished?
And then same guidelines for gray blending as far as timing.
I would say I always stick with, so I don't, yes, but I would say if I want the optimum gray blending, I'm sticking in that 30-minute processing time. So, all right, I hope you guys had another fun day with Demi Plus timing guidelines. A couple things I wanted to mention. First of all, if you have any requests for new videos or Facebook Lives, please drop them in the comments below. We're going to try and get to some of those if we have the opportunity. Second of all, don't forget that at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, or in about 18 minutes, Hairbrained Live, 12 o'clock, my fault, 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. In about the next 18 minutes, my friend Dawn Shank is going to be on Hairbrained Live doing a segment about overgrown blondes, some methods on how to deal with those overgrown high lift blondes when we get back to the salon after this COVID-19 situation. So it'll be great. Head on over to Instagram, Hairbrained Live, for that. Also, Hairbrained Live, hblive.me. We have a great opportunity over there for you. Loopy did a series on dimensional blonding, and this week it is complimentary for everybody. So head on over to hblive.me to take advantage of 3 classes with Loopy herself from her Hairbrained Live class. And check in with us next week on this page to see what education we have coming up for you. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.